Man, the Red Sox had a really big opportunity here, and they just fell on their face. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and surprise, surprise, the Boston Red Sox lost another series at home, officially putting their homestands at 2-6, officially putting their season record at 69-65 on the season, just 4 games over 500. They did, however, gain a game in the wild card hunt, now 3.5 games back, and I'm not even going to look at the division, to be honest with you. The big problem in this series is that the Sox had a prime opportunity laid out in front of them, and they just simply could not take advantage of it. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break this series down and talk about what it means for the 2024 season. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a bear to actually totally recap, mostly because we're talking about essentially an entire week of Red Sox baseball. So I think the best way to do this is to just lump everything that went right into one category and everything that went wrong into another category and just sort of talk about it in good and bad terms. So we're going to start with the good here, and we have to start with Brayan Bello because Bello had maybe the best start of his entire career. Not maybe, this probably was the best start of Brayan Bello's career. It was absolutely fantastic. He went 8 full innings. He struck out 9 batters. He allowed just 2 hits, and he gave up 1 singular walk. Just flat out brilliant performance from Brayan Bello on the mound in this series. And I'm not going to say that he's back and that the Brayan Bello that we've been waiting for is here. But what I will say is he's looked a whole lot better lately. If you take a look at his last 8 starts, Bello has a 3.42 ERA with a 3.93 FIP. That is a really big step in the right direction. We continue to talk about how big Brayan Bello has to be in terms of impact on this team for the Red Sox to succeed, and we've been seeing that from Bello lately, which is, I think, a really good sign, at least for 2025. I don't really know about what it's going to impact in 2024. Outside of Brayan Bello, though, moving over quickly to the offense here, one guy who's continuously been a big part of this Red Sox team is Jarren Duran, and he continued to do that in this series because the dude is going flat out nutty right now. He had 3 home runs in his last 5 games. He had 7 hits, added 2 more doubles to his league-leading double total, and he scored 5 runs. Just really impressive stuff here from Jarren Duran. On top of that, he also made history in this series. He became the first player in baseball since 1901. We are talking about over 120 years here, folks, to have a season where he had at least 40 doubles, 10 triples, 20 home runs, and 30 stolen bases. Jarren Duran has been really good for the Red Sox this entire season, and now his name is going to be in the history books for one of the better seasons we have seen in a very long time. Just continues to be a really, really impressive player to watch. Outside of that, we got to move back to the pitching if we're going to talk about highlights, because to be honest with you, there were a couple of really solid pitching performances here. Nick Pivetta went 6 innings. He allowed 3 runs. Only 2 of them were earned. He struck out 10. This was his scheduled Nick Pivetta's looking really good type start. It seems like this whole season we've had starts like this from Nick where we're like, okay, maybe he figured something out, and then his next start is absolutely horrific. I'm kind of expecting his next start to be absolutely horrific after this, but hey, at least we got a good start from Pivetta in this one. Cutter Crawford had a really good outing to follow up Brayan Bello's really good outing. He went 6 2/3 innings. He allowed 2 earned on 6 hits and struck out 3. He was really walking a tightrope in this one because 5 of the 6 of those hits were for extra bases. They were all doubles. Somehow he managed to keep the score low, which is cool. And for the second start in a row, he's not allowed a home run. In fact, in his last 5 games, he's allowed just 2 home runs. I know 2 home runs is still pretty decent. Still 40% of the games that you were throwing, you were giving up a home run. But at the same time, too, that's a lot better than from everything we've seen from Cutter lately. So got to give credit where credit's due. He kept the ball in the yard in this series, and good things happened for him on the mounds. Unfortunately, the offense couldn't capitalize, but we'll talk about that in a second. The other thing I wanted to highlight was the Red Sox bullpen. There was really one bad performance from the Red Sox bullpen, and that was Brad Keller, who is now a free agent. Outside of that, there were some really solid performances here. Bernardino gave up a run. Kenley gave up a run, but you still win that game. You take a look at everyone else. Zach Kelly threw 3 no-hit innings. Chris Martin looks absolutely fantastic. Justin Slayton's back and doing what he did. You got Greg Weissert making one of the most ridiculous plays I've ever seen from a pitcher in maybe the entirety I've been watching baseball. He almost turned a triple play in this series. For the first time in a very long time, the Boston Red Sox pitching staff kind of carried them to wins in this series. And I know they didn't win this series, but the pitching actually looked really solid. If you take a look at the last 4 games of this one, the Red Sox had a 2 ERA as a team combined. That is a really, really big step in the right direction for getting this pitching staff in a good spot, right? Because for the most part, over this last couple of months where they've been kind of butt cheeks, the Red Sox biggest problem has been the fact that they simply cannot keep runs off the board. This is a series and an example of how the Red Sox are going to be able to do that. I understand the Blue Jays kind of stink, but you also lost a series against them. So to have this is something you can cling on to as something positive that came out of it. The problem with this team was simply not on the pitching side of things. The problem with this team and the reason that they lost this series had everything to do with the way they approached the offense in this series as well as their defense. So let's break that down and also talk about what missing this prime opportunity may mean. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into the other half. So when we're talking about the problems with this team right now, we have to start by talking about the offense as a whole, and it's kind of an interesting scenario this offense is in because technically they were driving in runs. They went 8 for 21 with runners in scoring position in this series. That's a 381 average in those 5 games. And obviously, there's some crossover from the first game of this series being in June, so there's a little bit of a screwball there. But at the same time, too, 380 with runners in scoring position, that's not too bad. The problem here is that they really couldn't get runners into scoring position to capitalize on. 21 opportunities in 5 games is a pretty small amount of opportunities when you break it down by at-bats. A big reason for this is because the Red Sox continue to strike out. They had 50 total strikeouts between the 5 games that they played here. That is an average of 10 strikeouts a game. That is way too many strikeouts if you're trying to get guys on base. Again, it's been a problem we've talked about this entire year, but because the Red Sox were still scoring runs, it was something you could complain about, but it wasn't a reason the Red Sox weren't winning games. Now it's becoming a reason they aren't winning games. And to be honest with you, that runners in scoring position is a little bit skewed because in the last game, you went 0 for 0 with runners in scoring position because you couldn't get anybody into scoring position. You had 2 total hits in the entire ball game. That is simply not a recipe for success here. And the big problem with this Red Sox team right now, in my opinion, is the fact that they just simply cannot get themselves working as one cohesive unit. It's really been a problem this entire season, even from day one. Your pitching was doing well, but you couldn't get runs across the plate. Then the pitching falters, but you can get runs across the plate. And now, when your backs are against the wall, it's the same type of thing. The pitching's starting to come around, and you can't figure out a way to score runs. I don't really know what this offense is going to look like going forward. I think it could be better. I think it should be better, but this is now 2 series in a row where the offense has really been the big problem here. Can they turn it around in time? Are we going to see another offensive month like we saw last September where they just simply gave up, where they were the worst offense in Major League Baseball? If that happens, well, there's no chance you're taking advantage of any opportunities, right? That's just simply season's over. That's it. Now, there are a couple of things that do give me hope for this Red Sox offense. The first one being Rafael Devers should be back tonight for this team. He did not play in 3 out of the 5 of these games in this series, and when he did play, he was really battling through those shoulder injuries, so having him back, having him feeling a little bit better should absolutely help. I don't think Casas and Massa are going to stay as quiet as they stayed in this series, even though they had some big moments strung out throughout this. Wilyer Abreu, I think, should be better. I think Tyler O'Neill should figure it out at some point. The potential for this offense to get back to what it was is absolutely there, but you also did lose a pretty big person when it comes to how you were producing runs at the big league level. You lost David Hamilton. He broke his finger. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the season. And I know he wasn't the most productive player at the plate for the Red Sox, but he was a big part of what they were doing. Having him at 8, Cedon at 9, and Jarren Duran at 10, or 9 Cedon, Duran at 1, and Hamilton at 2 was sort of just a speed bombardment on defenses, and it ended up producing a whole lot of runs. How do the Red Sox produce without him in this lineup is going to be really, really interesting. I don't think he was the entire glue, but I do think that's going to be a factor as to how the Red Sox are able to rebound. And then you talk about the defense. We spoke about the fact that the Red Sox had a 2 ERA in the last 4 games of the series. That is 8 earned runs over 4 full games. The problem with that is that they actually gave up 12 runs, and that is because the Red Sox defense just simply could not help them. 4 unearned runs doesn't feel like a ton over the grand scheme of things. That's essentially 1 run a game, but man, that could absolutely have been the difference between them coming out of here 2-3 and them coming out of here 3-2. And if they came out of here 3-2, we're having a much different conversation about the Red Sox taking advantage of these opportunities. The defense just simply could not help themselves in this series. So what you're looking at in terms of reasons why the Red Sox lost this one, it's because they couldn't get it together offensively, and it's because they couldn't figure it out defensively either. Now, looking at this series overall, this one hurts a lot. It hurts a lot because the Red Sox had a prime opportunity here. The Twins are absolutely squandering it. They've lost 4 games in a row. They are 2-8 in their last 10 games. This was an opportunity for the Red Sox to really put themselves smack dab back in the middle of this playoff conversation. Even if they had gone 3-2, they would have been 2 games out of a playoff spot. If they had been able to go 4-1, we're talking about the Red Sox being a game out of a playoff spot. Instead, they do go 2-3, and that does allow them to gain a game in the wild card race. They are now 3.5 back, but still 3.5 back is so much different than a game or 2 games out of a playoff spot. And this schedule isn't getting any easier. They have Detroit coming up, who's one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. You've got the Mets after that, who's also one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. And then September doesn't get much easier either. What drives me insane is that you can see the path to the playoffs for this Red Sox team. You can see how they could have the ability to put it all together and put themselves in a position to get into a wild card spot. The problem is you just have no idea how they're going to get there. You have no idea how the Red Sox are going to be able to perform in order to get to that point. Is it going to be on the backs of their pitching? I wouldn't take that bet. Is it going to be on the backs of their offense? You would hope, but from what you've seen over the last 6 games, maybe that's not a realistic possibility anymore. And the defense certainly isn't giving them any help either. Although they did have some big moments in this series gunning guys out at the plate. I sit here and it drives me absolutely nuts. They have opportunity after opportunity and they just simply cannot take advantage of it. And at some point, once you start squandering enough opportunities, it's just a lost season. It's not completely over yet. They still put themselves, and they did, I would say, slightly give themselves an opportunity going forward. But man, every day this just keep getting harder and harder for them to make a postseason spot. And if they don't turn it on now, it very well could be over by the 2nd week of September, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Do you think the Red Sox squandered an opportunity? Do you think there was no opportunity there to begin with? And what do you think this series could mean in the grand scheme of 2024? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.